I'm the white moonlight, the quintessential first love in a melodramatic CEO novel. Unable to stomach the male lead's controlling nature, I broke up with him decisively and moved abroad to study. To make me regret leaving, he started dating a girl who was my polar opposite. On his payroll, a steady stream of photos, hugs, passionate kisses, even bedside shots, were sent to me by friends. After I returned to China, he intentionally let me catch him being intimate with the female lead. He taunted me, "She tastes way better than you ever did." I calmly took off my coat, draped it over the disheveled girl, and looked him in the eye. Is this the only kind of low-life tactic you know? Subscribe now, the story begins. I received a new photo. It was an intimate shot of Richard Xiang and his new girlfriend. She was sitting in his lap, legs wrapped tightly around his waist. The photo didn't show their full positions, but the atmosphere was heavy with suggestion. Based on my friend's past descriptions, I guess the girl didn't actually want these photos seen. I spammed a few memes to clear the photo from my screen and typed into the chat, "Richard's at it again, huh? Split the cash with me." My friend's sleep schedule was so messed up that she was practically on the same time zone as me while I was abroad. She replied almost instantly, "Don't worry, this money is honestly such an easy bag. If Richard knew, he'd probably lose his mind." When we broke up, it was messy. His possessiveness was suffocating, and I couldn't handle it. When I told him that, Richard's face darkened instantly, and he smashed the birthday gift I had given him. I'm controlling? I only give a damn because I care about you. Any other woman could stand naked in front of me and I wouldn't even blink. Which guy are you into? You come back and immediately start drama with me. His eyes went cold, staring at me as if trying to find a crack in my expression. No one. Just calm down, I said, reaching out to button his shirt for him. I don't like people interfering with my choices. What I wear is my business. Don't use love to hijack my life. That's not how you love someone. Love isn't a weapon. It's not having to ask permission for what I wear. It's not having to reply to messages 24 hours a day. I had more important things to do. Richard clearly wasn't listening. He grabbed my wrists and pinned me against the wall. Which guy is it? You think I won't kill him? He leaned in to force a kiss. I jerked my head aside and kicked him hard. I took the chance to break free and faced his violent expression. Richard looked down at the footprint on his clothes, his eyes clouded with a brewing storm. He was fuming, the veins in his arms bulging as he hissed through gritted teeth, "Georgina. One day, you'll be begging me on your knees, and I still won't take you back." Richard stormed out. That night, he called a crowd of scantily clad girls to party. Photos were sent to me by various people. 3 days later, I was on a flight to the US. Through mutual friends, I heard how angry he was, how he went on rampages and made everyone's lives miserable. Richard was convinced I fled the country just to escape him. But the truth was, I would have gone abroad even if we hadn't broken up. It was a plan I'd had for a long time, the breakup just happened to coincide with it. I had told Richard about it once, but he didn't remember. 6 months after I moved, Richard finally stopped acting crazy. He started dating someone new. The new girlfriend was my polar opposite, in looks, vibe, background, and personality. I am assertive and decisive, she is fragile and obedient. I come from a happy family, she lost both parents and was raised by a widow in a remote village. When my friend talked about her, she was full of disdain. Layla is nowhere near your level. Richard probably just got tired of fine dining and decided to see what bland porridge tastes like for a change. I replied, Georgina is Georgina, and Layla is Layla. I don't appreciate the comparison. I don't want to be treated like a dish on a menu. I want to be treated like a person. The essence of objectifying women is diminishing their sense of being alive. The way you treat a person should be fundamentally different from the way you treat an object. My friend panicked and apologized, and I decisively ended the topic. A few days later, I started receiving photos of Richard and Layla. At first, they were just shots of them alone. The photographer clearly knew what they were doing, the lighting and shadows were beautiful. Even when they weren't making eye contact, there was a hazy sense of romance. My friend explained, he's paying me to send these to you. He offered way too much to turn down. If I don't do it, Someone else will. Babe, I'll split the cut with you. I was going to say, I have money, I'll pay you double to stop, but when I saw the figure of 500,000 on the screen, I silently deleted my draft. I have money, but I'm not stupid. Richard hadn't just hired her, he hired several people to spam me. I negotiated an 80-20th split with them, 80 for me, and let them send whatever they wanted. Even wealth shouldn't be wasted like that. I honestly think the Shang family must be blind if they can't see the future of their own house with him at the helm. But later, the photos became more provocative. It went from smiling at each other to interlocking fingers. From Richard holding Layla tight to them sharing a messy kiss. From Richard lifting Layla onto his shoulders to the two of them lying in bed with bare shoulders, it wasn't hard to guess what had happened. Aside from my daily life, studies, and networking, managing these photos became my biggest task. I didn't block Richard, but I never logged into my Instagram. My friend sent me a screenshot of his private feed. She's the one. Just 3 words. The photo was of Layla trying on a ring. For real? Is it official? Richard's big day is coming. Let's see how shocked Princess Georgina is when she gets home. Someone replied, she's probably regretting it to her core. She'll probably fly back overnight when she hears this. Georgina isn't that petty. When she breaks up, she cuts ties. Don't overthink it. Richard replied specifically to that last one, why even mention her? It's bad luck. After my friend sent the screenshots, she added, Richard told me to send you this. I feel like he's still mad that you left in a huff, even though I know that wasn't why. He's obsessed with making you regret it. But it looks like he's actually planning to get married this time. I typed out a line, I'm coming back to China. My friend replied with a confused question mark. I can graduate early. I've finished everything here. There's no point in staying, so I'm heading back. I was telling the truth, plain and simple. But it seems some people didn't believe me. The news of my return spread like wildfire. Countless red notification dots popped up on my phone asking if it was true. After I confirmed it, everyone asked the same question, are you doing this for Richard? Despite my repeated denials, their tone remained a sure, I get it vibe. It's good that you're back. He really did love you. At the end of the day, there's no way the Shang family would ever accept someone with Layla's background. We all run in the same circles. Whether they actually liked me or not, they all signaled that they were on my side. I hadn't even done anything, yet the moment I landed, I was positioned as Layla's rival. There's a banquet tonight. It's been a while, let's all hang out, Dora messaged me. She was the friend who had been chatting with me the most. I hadn't seen them in ages, so I agreed without thinking much of it. When I arrived, Dora came out to meet me. She scanned me up and down. Everyone was expecting you to come back for blood, but I didn't expect you to dress so simply. I was wearing a cinched white maxi dress, well-tailored, but simple in design. I just smiled and pulled her inside. As soon as I entered, all eyes were on me. I looked at Dora, who had a helpless expression. Everyone loves gossip, you know how it is. It shouldn't be this. The words died in my throat as I realized why there were so many people I didn't recognize. Because of Richard. He was standing on the second floor, looking down at me. I only had to tilt my head to meet his gaze. He was wearing a black shirt, buttons undone as usual, revealing a patch of cold skin. Under the overhead lights, I couldn't read his expression, but I doubted he was happy. Why is he here? Dora waved her hands frantically. Don't blame me, I really didn't know. The others said they had a surprise for you. I'm just as shocked as you are. My phone buzzed with a group chat notification. It was blowing up. Richard said he wasn't coming, but his body doesn't lie. Georgina, go for it. Richard is just acting tough. He brought that so-called girlfriend, but he clearly can't let you go. The messages were endless. I honestly don't know what I did to make them think I'd ever want to be the other woman. Please don't say that. Richard and I are strictly in the past. If I still loved him, I wouldn't have broken up with him. I know you guys mean well, but he has a new girlfriend now. You need to respect his relationship, respect her existence, and respect my choice. This is making me very uncomfortable. Please stop. I sent the message and had Dora at everyone. I don't know if it helped, but the chat went silent for a few seconds. I looked down, and a specific plot point suddenly flashed through my mind. In the novel, this was the part where the white moonlight returns. Richard, who hasn't yet realized his true feelings for Layla, attends the banquet in a rage just to make Georgina regret leaving. He doesn't even notice that Layla is sick. At the party, he hurls insults at Georgina, completely ignoring Layla as she curls up in pain. After Georgina leaves in tears, Richard abandons Layla to go after her. As the male lead, no matter how toxic he is, he still has followers. Some girls who had crushes on Richard had been waiting for their chance. They couldn't touch Georgina, but they could certainly target a defenseless girl like Layla. Layla was locked in a room. Her phone was at 3%, and it died before she could reach Richard. It would be nearly 50 hours before Richard remembered her. Remembering this, I didn't hesitate. I sprinted upstairs. Just as I was about to push the door open, a hand slammed against it, blocking my way. Richard looked at me expressionlessly, his voice cold. My girlfriend is resting inside. It's a bit rude to just barge in, don't you think? He put heavy emphasis on the words my girlfriend. His eyes were ice. I took a step back and gestured for him to open it. Then you open it. She's sick. Richard let out a dry scoff, his eyes filled with mockery. Georgina, do you really take me for a fool? Whether she's sick or not, do I really need an outsider like you to tell me? I took a deep breath, refusing to argue. Richard, I don't have time for your mind games. The door is locked, and Layla is sick. I shoved his hand aside and turned the handle. The door wouldn't budge. I looked at Dora, who had followed me up. Dora, can you find someone to get this door open? She nodded, confused, and ran to find help. Layla? Are you conscious? A weak whimper came from inside. It was so faint that even with all my focus, I could barely hear the response. My friend went to get help. We'll have the door open in a second. Don't worry. I pulled out my phone to call an ambulance. Throughout the whole ordeal, Richard didn't say a word, just watched me. Even when I turned my back to make the call, I could feel his stare burning into me. Dora was fast and returned with someone to unlock the door. Layla was collapsed on the floor, whimpering like a wounded animal. Her phone was dead, but she was still clutching it tightly. I reached out and touched her forehead, she was burning up. If she stayed this way for 50 hours, she'd end up with brain damage, if she survived at all. The author gave her the female lead halo, but also piled on so much suffering, all just so she could earn Richard's love. I leaned down, trying to catch what she was whispering. It was a faint, struggling sound. Grandma. Richard. It hurts. Layla had never met her parents, she was a foundling raised by a widow in a remote village. In a moment like this, the only people she could reach for were the old woman who had long since passed and the man the author had fated as her male lead. Richard stood in the doorway, his gaze dark and unreadable. Pick her up, I said. The ambulance is almost here. Richard hesitated, a mocking smirk playing on his lips. Georgina, is this your new tactic to get my attention? She isn't someone you can use for your games. I leaned down, helped Layla into a sitting position, used my knee for leverage, and lifted her into a bridal carry. You're overthinking it, I said, looking him dead in the eye, punctuating every word. Someone. Like. You. Isn't. Worth. My. Energy. If the male lead was going to be this pathetic, I might as well take the role myself. He really wasn't on my level. Dora ran over, out of breath. Babe, the medics are here. She sensed the tension immediately and took a cautious step toward me. Georgina, you're so strong. You've got major boyfriend energy right now. I'm a girl, I replied. You should call it girlfriend energy. There's no need to strictly define the differences between men and women. You are a woman, so whatever you are is what a woman is. If you are strong, you are a strong woman. If you are fragile, you are a fragile woman. If you eat a lot, you're a woman with a healthy appetite. If you eat little, you're a woman with a small appetite. That's all there is to it. Richard's eyes darkened, his expression terrifyingly cold. Georgina, you've gone too far. My patience is wearing thin. To get Layla help faster, I ignored him and hurried downstairs with her in my arms. My heels were practically sparking against the floor. Dora chased after me, only catching her breath once we were inside the ambulance. I think Richard was calling your name back there. You misheard. Dora didn't push it, she just started rambling. Holy crap, you were wearing 3-inch heels and carrying a whole human being, and you were flying. Weren't you afraid of twisting an ankle? Not really. After all, I had the female lead in my hands. Dora noticed me staring blankly at Layla and leaned in, whispering, if it were me, would you fly like that too? Before I could answer, she answered for herself. Wait, I'm definitely more important to you than she is. You'd probably fly even faster. The nurse nearby looked annoyed. Quiet, please. Dora pouted but shut up. I squeezed her hand and whispered in her ear, of course I would. She beamed instantly. Since Dora was the one who organized the party, she had to head back to wrap things up. Seeing her run back and forth for me made me feel a bit guilty, but she just waved it off like it was nothing. We're best friends, she said. And you never judge me for being a bit slow. I pinched her cheek. Dora was a late bloomer, she was still speaking in single words when she was 3. She was simple-minded and easily tricked. People called her stupid, but I thought she was adorable. I once heard a theory that some people are animals living their first life as a human, so they still have those innocent, clueless animal traits. She was obedient and always looked at me with total focus. In the novel, I was the white moonlight first love and the later villainous second lead who couldn't let go. She was my sidekick, my blind follower. But in reality, she was my friend. That's why she was willing to do so much for me. Nice performance. Richard finally showed up at the hospital. He leaned against the doorframe with a nasty smirk, giving a half-hearted, bored clap. The lengths you'll go to just to get a rise out of me. My smile faded. Someone like Richard must have lived hundreds of lives, and been a devious prick in every single one. That's why he was so insufferable. I have trypophobia, I said. Richard cocked an eyebrow, clearly having no idea what I meant. He just looked at me with interest, as if admiring a painting. I hate people who are extra, too many layers, too many schemes, I clarified. I'm not as petty as you think. Take good care of her. I got up to leave, but Richard suddenly snapped. He lunged forward, slamming the door shut with his hand to block my path. He leaned down, his hot breath hitting my face, and I instinctively recoiled. Are you jealous, Georgina? Do you remember what I told you? Even if you begged me on your knees, I would never take you back. He sounded so certain, his muscles tensed under his shirt as if he were ready to explode. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I'm sorry, but this is a hospital. Don't be afraid to check yourself in for an evaluation. Richard gave me a long, deep look. Then, he spoke slowly, his tone dripping with the arrogance of a man who always gets what he wants. Georgina, I'm getting married. I paused and looked back at Layla, who was still unconscious on the bed. Richard, if you aren't fully prepared for what that means, I suggest you reconsider. But if you're sure, then treat her right. To this day, I don't understand why female leads in romance novels have to endure so much trauma. There is nothing wrong with wanting to be loved. There is nothing wrong with bravely pursuing someone and choosing to stick by them through thick and thin. If a female lead isn't perfectly rational, readers tear her apart. But the male leads? They always get a pass. A playboy turning over a new leaf is praised, a cold-hearted jerk showing a sliver of warmth after years of neglect is praised. As long as a man is somewhat handsome and has money, people will defend him even if he's a violent, cold-blooded serial cheater. They just frame it as he just hasn't found the right one yet. Women don't get that privilege. Layla, I hope you wake up. I turned left out of the room and found the nursing station. If the patient in room 3 needs anything, you can call me. I wrote my number on a piece of paper. The nurse looked at me, surprised. If you call the other contact on file, he might not pick up. But if you call me, I definitely will. Richard had already had his people list his info as the emergency contact. But I knew him, he always put Layla last. Countless missed calls, endless unreplied texts. In the novel, this part of the story was a major angst point. Layla would be hospitalized while Richard was off chasing me. If I didn't know the plot, I'd mind my business, but since I did, I couldn't just stand by. I gave the nurse a smile. Sorry for making your job harder. I'll make sure to write you a letter of commendation later. The nurse smiled back, her voice sweet. Thank you. For several days, no one contacted me. Then, while Dora and I were out shopping, she suddenly asked, Georgina, Richard and Layla are getting engaged. Did you know? I do now. Models were showing us clothes we had selected. I pointed to 2 pieces I didn't like. Except for those 2, I'll take everything. How about you? Pick whatever you want, my treat. Dora gave me a bear hug. You're the best. I'm not gonna be polite then. I laughed and hugged her back. When we left the mall, however, Dora's face was sour. What's wrong? Why the long face? She handed me her phone. I looked down at a social media app. The top post was, just saw Georgina at the mall, she was hugging her friend and crying. She looked so pathetic. The attached photo was of me hugging Dora just now. Because I had my head down, I looked incredibly depressed. The comments were a mess. Given the timing, can you blame me for speculating? Is it because of Richard's engagement? Didn't Georgina say in the group chat she didn't care? Let's stop worrying for her. Realize. We'll see what happens. Y'all are wild. Anyone want to grab a drink? Richard's here too. Moving this to the group chat. Dora pulled up a group chat. I wasn't in this one, and they were being much more reckless. I'm a pick-me myself, so I get Georgina. She's just playing hard to pull. I bet she's fuming right now. Ugh, I've hated her for a while. Acting like she's above it all day, so pure and lofty. Don't be too harsh, Georgina's actually nice. RT. If I swooped in right now, do you think I could bag her? LOL, she really is gorgeous. Good luck with that. Richard's face went totally black when he saw your message. Wait, Richard's getting married. Does he want both? Georgina is so hot, keeping her as a side piece would be such a flex. Layla wouldn't dare say anything. Typical Richard. I fought back a wave of nausea as I read. These comments were coming from both men and women. They seem to have no idea that this kind of vitriol always comes back around to haunt women, including themselves. These people are disgusting. I'm going to go off on them, Dora said, furious. In a Boss CEO novel, as the second lead, my family background was naturally elite. My family was basically a rival to the male leads. That's how the forced marriage plots could work later on. I'd had it easy all my life. People never dared to be this disrespectful to my face. Don't bother, I said. Talking behind my back can't hurt me. The fact that they don't dare say it to my face just shows they're powerless. They're not even worth my time. I was about to comfort Dora when a photo popped up in the chat that made me freeze. I clicked on it. It was the same type of photo Richard used to pay people to send me. But in this set, Layla's clothes were pulled open and her chest was covered in dark, angry bite marks. Under the club lights, the tears in her eyes shimmered. Her brow was furrowed in a look of pure pain and humiliation. The group chat exploded. Is this free for us to see? Go ahead and look. Richard's generous, he takes care of the homies. I mean, Layla's got some game, though. So she's just a good lay? Slept her way to the top? NGL, she looks kinda hot when she cries like that. The air felt stuck in my chest. I changed my mind. Actually, let's head over there. The group chat had a location pin. It wasn't hard to find. I led Dora inside and suddenly heard someone shout, Georgina's actually here. When I pushed the door to the private lounge open, Richard was just lifting his head from Layla's neck. His shirt was a mess, half unbuttoned. Even his pants were hanging loosely on his hips. Richard narrowed his eyes with a look of post-coital satisfaction, scanning me from head to toe with total condescension. It was the kind of look you give a piece of merchandise. Finally, as if he had just realized who I was, he let out a contemptuous smirk. I knew he was doing it on purpose. I looked away, focusing on Layla. Compared to him, Layla looked terrified. She was desperately clutching her shirt to her chest, trying to disappear, but there was nowhere to go. I could see them clearly, the bite marks littered across her skin, from her neck to her chest. They looked incredibly painful. Her short skirt was hiked up to her thighs, an inch higher, and she'd be exposed. Richard had forced her into this outfit. In the plot, Richard would dress her up just to tear the clothes off her, over and over again. Layla's tears and dignity seemed to have vanished in that repetitive cycle. Noticing where I was looking, Richard pulled Layla tighter into his lap. He kissed her on the lips, completely unbothered. Meeting my cold gaze, he grinned. She tastes way better than you ever did. Georgina, you're just too uptight. You're honestly a bore. The room erupted into a roar of laughter. He was wearing her lipstick, the color bright and mocking against his skin. Layla looked deathly pale, like a fragile little flower shaking in a storm. My heart ached for her. I stepped forward, stripped off my blazer, and draped it over her disheveled frame. She clung to it like a life raft, wrapping herself up tight. Thank you so much, she rasped. Her voice was shot, likely from crying so hard she had no tears left to give. Is this the only kind of low-life tactic you know? I asked, looking calmly at Richard. Richard didn't answer. Instead, his eyes wandered over my waist. Beneath my blazer, I was only wearing a camisole. Are you trying to seduce me, Georgina? He sneered. Why don't you try a little harder to please me? He leaned back, his eyes lingering on my chest with a look that left nothing to the imagination. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. Big talk for a guy with such a small package. Richard's face contorted instantly. He looked like a rabid dog ready to bite. He kicked over the champagne tower on the table, sending glass spraying everywhere. Georgina, have you no shame? I pulled Layla up and stepped back to keep us away from the shards. Dora, look after her for a second. Dora nodded blankly, looking like she'd just been handed a top-secret mission, and tucked Layla behind her back. I turned back to Richard and said, quite civilly, I just want you to understand that if you're going to objectify and sexualize women, women can do the exact same thing to you. Can't handle it? I haven't even started on your fragile ego, your pettiness, your main character syndrome, or the fact that you throw temper tantrums like a literal psycho. Actually, that's an insult to psychos. The only reason you ever got to be my boyfriend wasn't because you're a catch, it's because your ancestors must have hit the cosmic lottery. But your family's luck is running out, while you're just becoming a permanent ick. You think breaking glasses makes you a big man? Try me. A real big man is someone like me, who can look at a bottom feeder like you and keep my cool enough to talk sense. That is impressive. Richard lunged out of his seat, the veins in his neck bulging with rage. He stalked toward me with a murderous look in his eyes. To keep Dora and Layla out of the crossfire, I stepped forward to meet him. Go ahead, hit me. That's aggravated assault, I challenged. My lawyer is literally at the door. If I walk out of this bar, the street is crawling with reporters. You want to test me, Richard? I scanned the room at the others. And the rest of you, standing by and watching? I'll make sure my parents pull every contract we have with your families tomorrow. And I'll be sure to tell your chairman exactly why. That hit home. Richard's fists were clenched so tight they were shaking, but he didn't move. The onlookers, who had been enjoying the show, suddenly started chirping, trying to de-escalate the situation. Richard's rage was dampened by the cold reality of business. He wasn't the untouchable tycoon from the end of the novel yet, my family still had the upper hand. He turned his venom on Layla. Layla, who gave you permission to go over there? Get back here. Now. Dora trembled but kept Layla hidden. Don't look at him, she whispered. I walked back to Dora and took her hand. Layla, do you want me to take you away from here? Your debts. I can take care of them. Layla's grandmother had passed away, but her medical bills had left Layla millions in debt. Richard had used that to trap her, forcing a desperate, newly graduated girl into an agreement. He paid the debt, she became his on-call plaything. The breach of contract penalty was set at $10 million, an impossible sum for her. But I knew that contract wasn't worth the paper it was printed on. It was legally unenforceable. Layla looked torn, clutching my blazer tighter. Last chance. Get over here! Richard roared. Layla flinched. I'm scared, she sobbed, tears finally breaking through. I didn't let go of Dora's hand as I moved toward the exit. Layla looked at me, her eyes pleading. It's the classic little white flower trope, weak, indecisive, terrified. I had to force her to choose. I'm asking one last time, are you coming with me? Opportunities like this don't happen twice. I can't save you every time he loses his mind. You have the right to walk away right now. Fighting for your rights is a duty you owe to yourself. So, what's it going to be? Both Richard and I watched her. Layla bit her lip, her fingers brushing the fabric of my blazer. The feel of a garment that didn't belong to his world seemed to wake her up. She closed her eyes and bolted toward me. I choose you. I tucked her behind me and gave Richard a sweet smile. Sorry. She's with me now. I was betting he wouldn't dare lay a finger on me in public. I was right. I wanted to give myself a standing ovation. Georgina, I thought, you really were born to change the game. 2 days later, I brought a contract to Layla. She was still skittish, hiding away like a wounded bird until she heard my voice. Miss Shen, did you need something? I can handle the Richard situation for you. But it comes with conditions. Read this. I handed her a new agreement. Her hands shook as she scanned the pages. She looked up at me, bewildered. Why are you being so good to me? The contract wasn't a trap. I was offering to fund her education abroad to study design, all expenses paid. The only catch was that she had to work for my family's firm once she graduated, with a full salary. For her, it was a total win. Because I believe in your future, I said. I've seen your sketches. You have real soul in your work. The female lead was never meant to be talentless. The gold finger the author gave her was her design ability. But in the original story, she only used that talent to design wedding rings and suits for Richard. I saw a much bigger stage for her. I wanted her work in shop windows and on runways, not wasted under some man's thumb. Layla's eyes went red. Thank you. You really are as amazing as people say. They call you Richard's white moonlight, but I think you're a real light for everyone. I laughed. You don't need to be so formal. We're equals. Layla shook her head sadly. How can we be equals? You're a high society heiress. I'm just an orphan with nothing. I thought of the tropes in the novel and took her hand. Come sit. Let me show you something. I showed her 2 viral photos. One was a perfectly styled woman lounging on a sofa, looking elegant and untouchable. The other was a woman wrapped in a frumpy bathrobe, sprawled out on a couch like a sack of potatoes. The comments were all memes. CEO comes home, maid, why is there half a hog on my couch? CEO, maid, this isn't where you sleep. Throw the whole couch out with her on it. How does this make you feel? I asked. Layla hesitated. That you're the lady of the house and I'm just the maid? I looked her in the eye, serious. No. I'm telling you that next time, you should imagine yourself as the CEO. We don't have to belittle, weaken, or pettify ourselves. You can ignore the internet memes, but you have to remember, never put yourself in a subordinate position. You are incredible, Layla. You fought your way through college while caring for your sick grandmother. You never gave up on her. When the debt came, you faced it. When I gave you a choice, you had the courage to take it. That's because you are a problem solver. You read my contract and felt gratitude instead of entitlement. That shows character. I only know this much about you, and I can already list a dozen strengths. You are amazing. Stop putting yourself down. Start loving yourself. Layla looked at me through a veil of tears. Can I give you a hug? I pulled her into a hug immediately. I felt her trying to hold back the sobs until she finally broke. It's okay. Let it out. I have plenty of clothes, I can afford to ruin one blazer. Cry it out, Layla. Your best days are just beginning. She let out a soul-crushing wail and wept into my shoulder. I patted her back, thinking, finally. Ever since I could remember, I knew this world was a book. I was the first love, the second lead destined to turn evil. I didn't know who the hero was until I saw Richard's face and started dating him. Then, the plot points started flashing in my head. He was handsome, but he was a prick. Even if he was the male lead, I wasn't going to put up with him. I followed the script, broke up with him, and moved to the States. I hadn't planned on coming back so soon. But the photos my friends sent and the memories of the original plot made me realize Layla didn't deserve that life. Every woman deserves respect. Why should I be the only one who gets to wake up? I could have stayed on the sidelines. I chose not to. 3 years later, Layla returned from her studies. She had already made a name for herself abroad, and after joining my company, her career skyrocketed. She became a star, our products flew off the shelves, and her reputation grew even further. It was the ultimate win-win. I hadn't been idle either. Using my foreknowledge of the plot, I systematically dismantled Richard's business interests. I've been in the game since I was a kid, outmaneuvering him was easy. He doesn't dare come near me now. I can be kind, but I can also be your worst nightmare. Every time he tried to cross me, I poached one of his teams or stole a major client. After a couple of rounds of that, Richard learned his place. Toxic alphas only refuse to bow because they haven't met someone with enough power to break them. At a launch event for our new line, I sat for an interview. Richard sat among the other CEOs, his old arrogance replaced by a hollowed-out look. He watched me shine from the sidelines. I spared him a single glance before looking back at Layla. Even after all these years, her eyes still light up when she looks at me. I smiled to myself. No need for thanks, Layla. I, Georgina, was born to change the world. And that included saving you. More dramatic love stories coming. Subscribe if you're into this kind of mess. Tell us what kind of story you would like to watch.